We're recording. Where'd you find that thing?
So that's for
Oh, there it is.
Yes.
and maybe for Bethany and Brittany.
So, Joe.
Bradley, you still look so professional.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
I'm used to
Trying my best.
When did you not go to these sounds?
I brought my phone here.
Yeah. So that's where Brad.
Oh, they all come in unless they've gone home.
Yeah.
He had a nice pie.
Sometimes I have to go wear that to school. Was it Logan?
I had to get a haircut, trim the beard, and can't be looking like a fly.
Let's restart the high pitch.
That's a nicely trimmed mustache. That is a
All right, so Selena wants to go home. Anything you want to share with her, ask her, or, talk to her about?
We love you and we miss you.
And you're also here, not looking for other jobs outside of education.
Well, we're already paying for this. So Alexandria's journal this week was the first week I did not use something else. I did not look for another job. Was that this week? Yeah, and it was a great week. So Tyler will start his journal with I'm Alexandria.
This week I think I was passed.
But you're not Tyler this year. I'm
How do I not see you? Aren't we neighbors right now?
Yeah.
How do I never see you?
I don't know. Is work?
It's not acceptable.
High school.
She just got a visitor
She
pass.
what?
Doesn't need a
She's
passcode.
always
No,
in
I mean,
Thompson
I
High
know.
School.
But our house
Oh, that's
is so
Steven's phone.
close.
What's
Oh,
your
good,
favorite?
yeah.
Who's Hi, Emily. Lock him out.
Lock who
I
out?
just want to make sure
What?
this was right. This student's phone. I actually assumed that was right.
Jason Barber's house smells like fried chicken.
Says who?
Wait.
Where's Jason?
Right there.
I just wanted to.
I don't.
Where is he?
Jason!
He's hiding.
Hi! Why does it smell like fried chicken?
Because I cooked fried chicken when I wrote, before I wrote my journal.
Is he
Oh,
like,
you're talking about journals.
yes, I'll say anything else you want to add, and most people are like, some people, Brandon, not at this time. Anything you want to add? Brandon, not at this time. Sometimes more. You added this week something about your kid and the movies, and Raleigh, you did something.
Yes, we went to Raleigh. And to quote my son, we went to go eat out. No, it's something from the How to Train Your Dragon TV show. It took us a while to figure out what the hell we were talking about. But we went to go to the museum and go geek out.
Nice.
So
here.
Oh, that's good.
Geek out.
Selena's here.
Hi!
She can see her.
Glad you brushed me.
There's actually a really cool thing about optical illusions and brain mazes. It's like stuff I just
Amanda Sharp is being rude. Dr. O.
We went to the UNC.
I'm afraid of you, they're not afraid of
It
you.
was very nice. And then we went to the Natural Sciences Museum.
All right, so do you have your sheet of paper? And then we're gonna try and get this ready. So tonight's whip, what is one thing you are doing that is sustaining you? What is something that is sustaining you? So, what do you think I mean? What might I mean? Maybe, yes, it can mean that. It can mean that. What is one thing you are doing that is sustaining you? Rick, I'm here.
Wow! That's a big deal in the middle of an internship.
He has a wife. I don't do that.
You have a wife. My husband made me wait until he graduated, and then I held it over his head. Yes.
I was just an inappropriate question.
We're both
How
in
kind of
school,
you.
so
You what?
we're both in school, so
Okay, she's on the robot. But she can't move yet, though. Tell her she can't move.
She can hear you. Don't move.
Somebody tell her she can't move.
Yeah, don't move on the robot.
Okay, Brad, turn the camera on.
Didn't he already turn it on?
Yes, anything else for Selena? Brittany's here on Skype. So shouldn't she see more than you, Amanda? Or is that just what you're gonna do?
No, I can move it. I'll charge my computer.
You could carry her around. Just keep charging, she's fine.
I'm at 47.
I'm gonna send Bethany and Brittany the PowerPoint, so I'll do that right now. Or I guess I won't do that. Like, on the,
You can't hear.
I don't know how to do that once the PowerPoint's up. Did you know how to do that?
You just minimize it.
Did you all see her roll her eyes at me?
Yes.
She did.
No,
So
I did
what?
not.
You
I
did.
think she hesitated.
Yeah.
She wanted to roll.
So,
her eyes.
well, we're gonna start.
But she stopped.
Vivian would like to start. So, we're gonna start with Vivian. What is one thing, we're gonna listen to Vivian. What's one thing you're doing that's sustaining you?
I'm going to bed at a consistent.
Ah, going to bed at a consistent time. Okay, awesome, thank you. Brandon Jarvis, what is one thing you're doing that's sustaining you?
Oh,
This can be metaphysically, physically,
my kids are awesome,
spiritually.
so it's going really well.
Okay, that's not the answer.
Hanging out with my
What
kids who are awesome.
is, hanging out with kids who are awesome, thank you. Steven, what is something you are doing that is sustaining you?
Listening to a podcast.
Oh, you do love the podcasts. That's awesome. I found a new podcast I should share. Maybe, you might be like, you do talk a lot. Okay.
I don't know how to do it.
What? So, what is one thing you are doing that is sustaining you?
I don't know exactly.
Okay. Sustaining me, Logan caught me doing it today. I'm walking the sunny hallways. So that is sustaining me. John Harris saw me doing it too. I'm walking the sunny hallways to try and have some sunshine. So that's
Okay, you
sustaining
can
me.
come back.
Okay?
I am exercising like a crazy woman. I love it. Thank
Were
you,
you pointing
Emily.
at someone? Oh, you were pointing at someone.
Yeah, Emily launched it this summer, and I've got muscles. I made Daisy feel my muscles today. It was highly inappropriate, and then my legs as well. So I was like, feel my leg muscles. Punch them. And she was like, okay, mentor. Delete that from the video.
Oh, no.
Too late, always.
What is one thing you are doing that's sustaining you?
I guess using the positive
So I don't know Awesome. Bethany, what's one thing you're doing that's sustaining you?
You, but you brought it. She can't really hear.
Yeah.
You can make it look like.
So it's volume.
That's not the volume.
It's an iPad.
I already
It's an
did it.
iPad.
I already turned it up. It only turns her up, but doesn't turn up us.
But I don't have any more controls now.
Huh.
It only turns up her talking.
We are living one thing.
So say that to her.
So she wants to know one thing that's keeping you apart.
What's one thing you're doing that's sustaining you?
One thing you're doing that's sustaining you.
That's an answer.
Brittany?
To Brittany
Bethany.
and Bethany. Bradley, you call her Bethany.
Bethany.
Yes.
Look at that brain of mine.
Bethany,
That's
what's one thing you're doing that's sustaining you?
Talking to my partnership teacher when I'm
Oh, nice. Tyler, what's one thing you're doing that's sustaining you?
Sleeping.
Sleeping. Yes. Sleeping. That's a popular one. Jason, what's one thing you're doing that's sustaining you?
I tried to go fishing and I hurt myself.
It's a rugged sport.
He lost his pole.
No, yeah,
Jason, I thought I told you to
I came back out like 3 weeks ago.
I remember you saying that. Was it because you were fishing?
Yeah, I was fighting the fish.
So having some self-care and you threw your back out.
Yep.
So much for the self-care.
Positive refrain.
Oh, and the positive, yeah. But I'm sure the back out made you rest more. Rachel, one thing you're doing that's sustaining you? Sleeping, okay. Kimberly, what are you doing that's sustaining you?
I'm on the 80-20 diet. That means 80% I eat very well, and then there's 20% where I, like after all this healthiness, I'll be hitting a vending machine for some badness. 80-20, and it works, okay?
That is the level of mastery.
Ooh.
80%. Just sit. 80% is mastery.
That's awesome.
Go over that.
80-20. I think it's kind of good for everything. Like,
I think it's probably, yes, I think 80-20 is probably good for everything.
that's awesome. Brittany, what are you doing that's sustaining you? Oh. So Amanda's eyebrows are going to tell me whether or not it's an appropriate time to talk to the person
I think
Skyping.
she's there, but I don't
Okay.
know where she is.
When she comes back, gesticulate wildly.
Yeah.
Okay, Amanda, what are you doing
Oh,
that's
she's
sustaining you?
there. Hey, Brittany, what are you doing?
not very fast, but. No.
I don't know.
Are we-
I think she might be
Actually,
blowing her
tell me
mind.
they're fastest with
So
the
that's-
That's what Brandon Jones doesn't know how to do one.
She's on
We
the-
are not good at this.
You are great.
No.
You're good. Not at this.
80-20.
Um,
Amanda. Let's all listen to Amanda. What are you doing that's sustaining you?
Just doing self-care stuff. You know, going
Like?
to movies and but now I don't know how to hang out with all you guys.
Emily Warren, what are you doing that's sustaining you?
Zach, come on,
Talking to Logan and Jamie at the school, because they're right, literally on the same hall as me. And Bridget, she's above me. And these guys, just talking to people that go work, they sustain me.
Nice, thank you. Evan, what is sustaining you? What's one thing?
Right now, it's counting down days till spring break.
That's true.
That's soon.
Next week.
Counting down the days till spring break. How many is it?
I'm not sure.
8
8 days, 8 school days.
8 school days till spring break. Oh, I know, us to me. That's okay. 8 school days till spring break. Adam, what is sustaining you?
I've been on the 80-20 diet as well.
Yes.
I'm in a train.
Do I have your Starbucks teacups in my office?
No wonder.
Okay, let's not forget it, because it's a nice one, and I'm so tempted, like, multiple times a week to be like,
Sorry.
Are we
I have
still
not used it. Oh, sorry. Yes. So let's get it. John Harris, what is sustaining you?
Teaching.
Oh,
I love John.
Oh,
I
he's
love
doing the
it.
right thing.
No right thing, Dan Sharp.
Teaching,
No right
teaching
thing.
would suck without teaching, but it's awesome. So.
Wow, sorry, you said teaching, sort of.
And John gets an awe.
Poor Brandon.
That's not right.
He doesn't
Quiet.
know
It's because you don't know how to do a whip, Brandon.
That's right. Brett, what is sustaining you?
Not bringing student work home to grade.
Awesome. Does that mean you're losing it in the car crash?
Or
Or
that you're
are you grading it at another time?
I just grade during playing period or just do general check over or have them grade it. Just do trade and grade. Something like
Devin,
that.
what is sustaining you?
I think for me, trying new methods, and also like shout out to John. He sent me like a cool new method this week, and I'm able to steal some stuff from other social studies.
Dude.
Nice. Selena, are you aware of the shout
Visual
out?
studies got to him.
It was started by Amanda Sharp, and so many people have picked it up that we are shouting out positive things that people that are
Like
listening
a
to.
verbal 10-finger rule.
On the PowerPoint.
It's on the list.
Oh, you're back.
Thank you, Devin, and thank you, John Harris, for doing that.
Oh.
So Amanda asked Brittany what she's doing to sustain herself.
Did you hear that? What are you doing to sustain yourself?
How are you? What's something that is sustaining you as we get to these final days, weeks, months? Do you want us to come back to you? Okay, so we'll let her hear a few more examples. So Caleb, what is sustaining you?
No, yeah. I just saw the ceiling and I thought you disappeared.
Amanda will mute you whenever appropriate.
Oh.
You okay? What just happened?
Was it a bug?
Caroline's going.
So just scoot yourself back so you can get all that taken care of over there. Vivian will pull you backwards. I didn't hear what Brittany said.
She just said she didn't want to be rude. She like had to go. So she said well.
Okay, all right. So Caleb, what is sustaining you?
Well, we know I'm a little dyslexic, so I've been doing the 20/80 diet.
That's awesome.
It's not as funny. My bad.
Okay, Bradley, what is sustaining you?
Making time for fun and friends.
Making time for fun and friends.
What
Fun
friends?
and friends.
She can't push any of the arrows on the computer.
Tell her to touch nothing. Normally, it's so classic.
This is exactly.
What if we all got off?
Just sometimes it's
If I had something to throw, I would throw it.
exactly how it
Make someone give some a throw.
Stop touching the air.
Set her in the middle.
It's okay. It's entertaining all of us. She's gonna have to stay right here next to the table.
And then move the base.
We were trying to get Bridget up against the table.
It's never like
It's always like this.
Yeah.
It's always like this.
It's always like this.
I'm tougher than that.
We get through
I didn't have one here. It's my last piece of salt on the test.
So we're gonna pretend like nothing unusual is happening over here. We're gonna have Bradley re-say his answer.
Oh, man, okay.
I can wait.
You said make time.
Okay.
It's gone all teacher on us.
Yeah, making time for fun and friends.
Making time for fun and friends, thank you. We re-centered with our students.
That's what I said.
Yeah. Alexandria, what's the name?
Well, I was gonna say what you guys said, but the positive reframe, I've been trying to make sure to stay more positive and be sure to be mindful of what I'm thankful for, but I also think that's associated with the belief that I can actually teach. So you can.
And you are. It's been a good week. That's two good weeks.
That is great.
That's awesome.
Nice, high five. If you want it.
Logan, what's sustaining you?
One musical.
Logan's in a play.
We open next week. If you would like.
So, I can send you a link. And then, Nella, what is sustaining you?
Probably getting like pictures and videos of my niece and nephew, because my nephew is just starting to walk, so he's like going everywhere. So just like seeing them, and my niece starts T-ball next week, so that's really exciting for me. She's 4, so.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Awesome, thank you. Now, Jamie, what is sustaining you?
Graduation is coming up.
Celebrations. Remember that was on summer's PowerPoint celebrations.
Yeah, graduation.
Graduation's coming, thank you. And then Caroline, what is sustaining you?
Really making everything super organized and coloring foldables, and I'm loving my students' work, like preparing for class. It's so much fun.
That's
And I
awesome.
collected rocks when I went hiking and I brought them to class.
Who has not shared? Bridget, what is sustaining you?
I'd say building relationships with the kids.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I just want that.
I know, that's gonna spread. We're actually gonna talk about goodbyes next week. One of our topics is going to be sort of a menu of options for healthy goodbyes. So it is hard on people when you just say goodbye. So we're gonna talk about that. Yeah, we're gonna talk about goodbyes. Brittany, what is sustaining you? You had a good week too, yeah.
What?
You had a good week in your narrative. I enjoyed being.
So my husband recently bought us a lot of workout equipment, so now I can work out at home. So yeah, that's
Awesome, awesome, thank you. And Job would tell you that his hot tub is sustaining him. Because every journal is about the hot tub. So it'll say anything else you want to add, and he'll say, I'm getting in the hot tub. Or I just got out of the hot tub. Or we were in the, yeah.
We all show up and go.
I know.
That's what I saw.
I
Have
know.
like a hot tub party. I'd be down to join.
Yeah,
Like,
how big?
It'll fit.
It just depends on the class. Our whips are. There's no time.
An unreasonable amount of time. That was a whip, Brandon, in case you're wondering.
You're welcome.
That was the best you guys.
No, I'm going to say,
That actually was the best.
That was the best you've done so far.
Yeah.
Good
You're
work.
No, it was
welcome.
good.
no, 5'10" was much better.
Oh, we mean now. Brandon was not a member of 510.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is that.
That's fine.
Yeah, we don't really know why last year.
Brandon
I would
left.
say actually today was more in depth than what you would do in 5
Oh,
minutes.
yes.
So better
Yes.
is relative.
In depth. Yep.
It's more in depth.
I'm so glad you're here. Are you? Yeah.
We are. I'm gonna go finish that later.
Okay. Glad you waited for us. Because you could have left an hour ago.
I know, I was ready to. I know, I'm glad you did. My husband is sad.
Well, I'm happy.
I'm gonna go great.
It all balances out.
Does it?
It all
That's good
balances out.
music.
Okay, do you have,
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
do you still have your blank sheet of paper? Okay.
I really don't.
Not quite ready.
4 fundamental questions. You are answering these, Caleb, by yourself. Okay? 4 fundamental questions. You are answering these by yourself. Question 1. What, did you get the PowerPoint? Okay. It's sort of like a impressionistic painting.
It is. Yeah. What the idea?
So, great. We'll fix it in a minute. As soon as it charges a little more, she can move around. So, yeah, she can move around. So, question 1, why are you becoming a teacher? Question 2, why do you teach the way you do? Question 3, what does it feel like to be taught by you? Question 4, how do you spell success? Really, share a word that means successful day to you. Stephen. So this is by yourself.
Can I ask an
Of
unrelated
course.
question? I think it's like see the commercial that I filmed. Do you know about that?
I don't know.
I guess I'll email
I
somebody.
think it's going to be like public.
Like I'm gonna be on the big screen?
Yeah.
So let's see.
What commercial?
Her teacher and Logan were in
Or it's real fancy.
some PBS.
PBS?
Watson.
PBS.
PBS.
What's PBS?
We're not talking.
Sorry.
Logan.
Sorry, I just, she never emailed, I mean, alright,
You're
Number
still doing
1.
it.
And I was gonna fuss at Caleb. Not necessary. Yes. We'll fix it. Are you okay just listening, Bethany?
Annexation of a light.
Don't be afraid. Okay, hold your chair still. Is that better? A little break. Once it's on, it's not supposed to stay in the thing, because it's supposed to, but we're charging it right now. Okay. It's not weird at all, is it, Brichette? Absolutely casual. Hold up your fingers at the question you're on. 3, 3, 3. Shall I do the side death? It's completely
I'm used to it.
ineffective. Why are you becoming a teacher? Try to do that in one sentence. Why do you teach the way you do? What's it feel like to be taught by you? And what means success to you? join us here. Thank you. Tyler, thank you for joining us here. It'll be weird, we'll do our best. It's like a six-person followed by just who said that. That sounds so good.
I went to South Carolina.
I had, because I had the social studies department meeting and my teacher's the head of it, she's the chair. I went and changed, because I had to get out.
Well, I just came back from school. I forgot. 2 hours late.
All right, are you ready? 80-20. Every table, I need you to elect one person. Raise your hand, person. Emily, Rachel, Brett. Okay, that person please stand. That person please stand. That person is moving one table clockwise. Is this clockwise or counterclockwise?
If I go this way.
See,
That's counterclockwise.
I'm right.
We're going counterclockwise.
Whatever.
It's like clockwise. Yeah, my hand would notice.
Did you hear your teacher just whatever you? Whatever. Okay. Pick a second person. Second person. Brad. Second person. Stand. Second person. Stand. Stand with your body. Stand. Stand. Go this way.
I was counterclockwise.
Would that be the baby? I feel like me.
I feel
This table doesn't have enough people at it.
I'm walking like completely like I didn't get in here.
Perfect. Thank you, John Harris. Perfect.
But then you said something to me when I said, "Hey, what do you say to you?"
I need a person from here.
I was like,
One before.
I wanted food.
I don't know if you know the here. All right, now.
Shut it.
Using your inside voice. Can you shut the door?
Sorry, Brad's having
I'm about to just.
I got jealousy, man.
Okay, so Emily Warren said, what are you doing? So why don't we just do a little bit?
Well, no, that would make sense.
What else did we do? Move. Yep. Active. What else?
You split up groups.
I split up groups, split up cliques. Some of us get stuck with our
You
cliques.
gave us choice to choose who went.
Yep,
You
lots
didn't
of
tell
choice. Anything else?
Rotating without having everybody up at once.
Oh, yes. How many of you, like the kids get up and you're like, ah! So I loved Jamie last semester. Do you remember? So last semester, Jamie was doing this computer activity and things were going perfectly, and then she got trapped behind the laptop cart. And so, yep, because a kid asked her a question over by the laptop cart, and then it was time to put your laptops back, and she was stuck with all these giant children putting back their laptops, and there was no way to get out. And I was sitting there watching like, this is a thing that happens that you don't plan for, because you never would have known that kid would have come over. So people moved with only a couple people moving at a time, and yet people were moving. And so some pushing, yes, and then, what else? What else? Can you think of anything else? What else happened?
We were kind of like laughing and talking among ourselves.
Yes, you were. There was some lightness. It was slower, I think, than I would have liked in the high school classroom, but that's okay. Like, we're exhausted, and teachers are terrible students generally. So, and you all still did it. So now at every table, elect a person. Now, that person using all of his or her leadership skills and keeping your class quiet, because we have 2 people Skyping. Question 4. Question 4. Captains are in charge of the table doing question 4. Ready? Go.
What was wrong with you, honey? Since you're so mad at me. How do you spell success, Pastor?
Let me erase it.
Oh, sorry, Brad. My students are happy. Is this one sentence?
Oh, one word? Share a word to me, meant
To
like,
me is
what's a word?
Jenny
What's the phrase?
I said, you know, it's pretty, just like, our basic about gospel for 100%.
Yeah, what's yours, honey? Love.
One word.
I said smiles.
One word. Question 4 is one word.
I thought, I was like really listening to you. I was like, is this a sentence? But that's interesting because I was thinking the same thing. I said, if I see even one smile or a smile at one point in 4 blocks, and then we went right there. Because that crosses your so that's it. You can
Hey, good job.
I'm yelling every day. I'm telling you, you don't like, that's just what it is. But they're like, can you ask me nice questions in class? I'm like, today,
Did everybody go? Okay. Emily Warren, what's your word?
smiles.
Smiles. Bradward?
Respectfulness.
Respectfulness.
Love.
Love.
Joy.
Joy.
Wait, what are we?
What's your word?
One word. Oh, I said the hum.
Oh, the hum. The hum. Caroline?
Engagement.
Engagement. Brett?
Understanding?
Understanding. Question mark?
I had more than one word.
Okay.
I
Vivian?
said engagement.
I said too loud.
I'm so sorry. I just poked you in the eye. What's your one word?
Happy.
Happy.
Participation.
Participation. Fun. Positivity.
Engaged.
Engaged.
Damn, I didn't.
Engaged.
Engaged classroom, but I
Get a stickler. Down here.
Learning.
Learning. Bethany. Connection.
Did you forget my name?
No. Oh, do you want to hear your name? Tyler.
Challenge.
Challenge.
accomplishment.
Accomplishment. Engagement. Jason. Jason. What's your word?
Jason.
That is
a word.
Oh!
It took me a second. So I was like, ha ha.
Just gonna throw that.
Mr. Barber. Brittany, what's your
His
word?
word of success is his name.
Accomplished. Kimberly? Aha. I mean,
Happy.
happy. Rachel?
Engaged.
Engaged.
Learning.
Learning. Pleasantness.
Jason.
Jason.
Discussion.
Discussion. You started us. Okay, thank you. Mine might be participation or joy. I'm not sure. So thank you for that. Question number 3. One person, please stand up. I was not going to do that, but switch tables. I don't care where you go.
Oh, favorite. That was good.
I had that moment of like telling my kid I was going to figure out the
Hello.
we were like, not in a rude way, just like we got I think it was a Friday, and we were joking, it was her birthday. Well, she was like, I'm about to jump out and do that. And I was like,
Okay, this is a new captain. Just kidding. This is a new captain. Okay, Tyler, Jason.
I don't want to be the new
Oh,
captain.
Bradley. Okay, Tyler, Jason, new captain. New captain. Adam's in charge. New captain. Devin, Doc. Okay, John Harris. In your quietest voice, how does it feel to be taught by you? Go, in your group. Captain, you're in charge. How does it feel to be taught by you?
Okay, I hope it feels that I'm supportive and open to questions.
Wait.
And that they can, they're not afraid to fail the first
Feels
time.
like.
They can, I guess I would have to ask
Or a coach.
what they think it is.
Like a coach,
I should probably do like a mid,
Okay.
Sorry.
mid,
I said hopefully it's fun, interactive, and inspiring. But I don't know if that's true.
I bet it is.
I doubt it.
You got that voice.
I doubt it. I said thought-provoking as well. That was one of
What do
them.
you sound like when you're saying?
I don't yell at my students. I'll just sit there and let them
You're like,
run around.
you're like, I'm trying not to.
Yeah, I'll just shame them with my ignoring.
Sorry, I'm not.
By ignoring them.
You do that sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes. Cause I just say like, what's wrong with you people? That's what I say.
They
What's
ask
wrong
me
with
that
you
all
people?
the time. Like, what's wrong with you, stars? I'm like, a lot of things.
Yeah.
They'll be like, how are you doing today? And I'm like, fine. Oh, why do you?
No, and today we were like part of Romeo and Juliet, the scene where you see Romeo's butt. They lost their fucking mind. And I knew.
All of the students, what does it feel like to be taught by you?
positive delta, plus delta. Can you see your face?
That was my word. I started with I did a warm-up class.
For like a long, and everyone like looked at me like, what are you starting to say?
Give up and
And she come away and kept reading, and I'm yelling, what? That wasn't classes back here. I'm like, oh.
Okay, are you ready?
It was like really.
Be very careful.
Yes. Like, how loud was the yell? Like, I'm never doing this again. It was like, also, you're always I'd rather you change. Are you ready? Good though.
Our kid, who has not shared yet? Are you ready? Okay, who hasn't moved? Who hasn't moved? Please stand if you have not moved yet. You also get to go anywhere you want, except for where you are.
You guys are going to have
Just my head. It's just my head. Welcome to my group. Is this?
Somebody, where's Adam going? Okay, who's in charge? So indicate yourself. Who's in charge? You're down to 3.
Evan. And we now have a new member. Oh, give you a better her. Don't break her.
All right, but she's the judge.
Oh, bye.
Don't break my nose.
What are we doing? Who's in charge? Me. Okay. Why do you teach the way you do? Go.
Keep the way you do that.
That's amazing.
Sorry, I didn't mean to react like that. But
That's amazing. Why did you say that?
fate or free will, we're talking about that right now.
I mean, it's also my personality, right? Like, I'm very organized, but I'm organizing things, so it's like so scattered. So, what ends up happening is while I'm up there, I'm like, oh, we gotta do that, we gotta do this, we gotta do this. So that's how I do it.
What were the questions?
Okay, back to the question, why do you teach the way you do?
Bizarre. Was it lines every song? You should.
There's like a specific standard.
I have more of like a coaching style, like usually I have policy, traditional class, I believe in motivating students, I've seen it, especially right now, sometimes I know they're work. But because I think that they respond well to that, they know I'm doing this, I hope they know that I'm doing it in a caring way. So I balance that, like, get your stuff done, but then I make sure I go around and like, they see that I recognize what they're doing. And we do a lot of team building stuff, so we do non-content team building activities, like maybe outside, to show them how to care about their while being like, getting my favorite
So to get the results you want,
yeah.
things like that, and to follow it. What about you?
My next way to kids feel nurtured, but also really active. So we spend a lot of time on the same subject, but like we don't study we're doing for 2 weeks because I want to leave knowing.
So we can just do reading before what about the youth?
I said, because I value students. During that meeting today, if they're like, I'm a teacher in front of the class, that's like a successful method. Work and I can go around
Are you ready? Did everybody share? Okay, one back this way.
Like for learning.
Oh, you're finishing. Was Bethany finishing? Okay. 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 Nobody has to move. So nobody has to move. In one sentence or less. In one sentence, why are you becoming a teacher? In one sentence, why are you becoming a teacher? Go. With your small group.
Go ahead.
What's really the same thing? I said I love to motivate and cheer for others.
I want to
And I
inspire
like to
my
lead
students.
and guide others to the way. I like to teach people things, even outside of school. I just like, did you know? No. Did you know? But yeah, just those things.
No, I just
said,
Like high school work at an exciting age.
I said because I think that education is the only true way to become better. And because I just believe in teamwork, I think we give them. Yeah.
but we did not kill it.
And also, I hated high school, and
Are you ready?
I wish I had that I always say.
Like this?
That I try not to do.
My dad kid was not bad thing.
I know, but it,
I was just wondering because if you were to bring, I was just wondering.
It's content, like, I love English. I love to
Yeah, I mean,
because you can say, I really missed you.
like that.
You'll be shocked.
What?
Like, oh, I'm making a teacher, and I go down and think about stuff.
Are you ready?
You gotta be hard. That's, you know, and I'm like, I'm sorry, like, or which one of the presentation. Well, now I'm just stop and be like, hurry on.
All right, are you ready? All right, are you ready? You're gonna be by yourself for just a second.
Yep.
You're gonna be by yourself for just a second.
Yeah, we're rotating.
By yourself for just a second. What's the fifth fundamental question? What's your fifth question? You ask a question. You ask a question. I asked 4 fundamental questions. What's the fifth question about teaching? You write it. You ask a question on your paper by yourself right now. Write the fifth fundamental question. Right? The fifth. What's your fifth question? What's a question you want to ask? And write it down. Maybe. Maybe. A first word helps. What's a fifth fundamental question? And you write it down. Points of correction.
Girl, or girl. Sorry.
No, that was a total fail.
Let me see if I can toss you.
That's good, I think all the way up here.
Somebody.
And what if it's next to
Like a doctor.
Like, I think I need
Doctor.
Yeah, really.
It's so many of them.
Okay, starting with, and you can say pass, I hope you don't, but we'll start with Tyler. What's your question? Ask it to the class. What's your question?
Where should I teach?
Where should I teach? Okay. Bradward, what's your question? Yes.
How can I remember or practice these 4 answers on a daily basis?
Oh, how can I remember or practice these on a daily basis? Thank you. Mr. Barber, what's your question?
I like your perspective, thank you. Why did it take so long?
Oh, why did it take so long? Why did it take so long? Thank you. Brittany, what's your question?
I couldn't think of one.
Oh, okay, thank you. It was like she wasn't speaking English for a second. I was thinking.
I can interpret.
Thank you.
Speak English.
If one comes to you, we'll come back to you. Okay, to Kimberly, what's your question?
What more can we do to improve our teaching?
What more can we do to improve our teaching in our schools and our everything, in our world? Yep. Vivian, what's your question?
Am I making a difference?
Am I making a difference? How would you answer it right now? Oh, today's a maybe day. Okay.
Some days.
Yeah. My answer would always be yes for you. So, Rachel, what's your question?
I was struggling, but maybe like who inspired you to teach or like
Who inspired you to teach? Nice. Or who's your, who are you modeling? Yeah. Caroline, what's your question?
Pass.
Pass. Caleb?
I'm just making sure she can see everybody. So mine was, what do you do if you aren't reaching your definition of success?
What do you do if you're not reaching your definition of success? Thank you. Bethany, what's your question? What do you love most about teaching? Thank you. Adam, what's your question?
What would your classroom look like in ideal situation, in an ideal situation?
What would your classroom look like what's your perfect classroom look like? Thank you. Evan, what's your question?
What is your best quality as a teacher?
What's your best quality as a teacher? Thank you. Logan?
What keeps you coming back every day?
What keeps you coming back every day? Yeah, 'cause it's not a paycheck. So, yeah, what keeps you coming back every day?
Reaction to my students right now. You're not getting paid for this?
In love.
I'm literally in debt right now.
Nella, what's your question?
So mine is, what drives you to teach or show up every day?
What drives you to teach or show up every day? Thank you. Emily?
I said, are you more than just a teacher for your students?
Are you more than just a teacher? Thank you. Maybe.
What can you do to become a better teacher?
What can you do to become a better teacher? Thank you. Bethany?
How are you making sure your students know their voice matters?
How are you making sure your students know their voice matters? Thank you. Stephen?
Showing my kids I care.
How am I showing my kids I care? Yep. Brett?
What does your dream school look like?
Oh, what does your dream school look like? Yeah. Mr. Harris?
I have the past tense of Stephen's question. How did I show my students I cared about them today?
How did I show my students I care about them? Yeah. I have a comment. I'll make it later.
And
Because
I
we're
used,
trying to wait. Sorry. Go
I
ahead.
used Stevens as well, because he said that when we were talking and it really hit me.
Can you say it again?
How do my kids know I care?
How do my kids know I care? Jamie?
What can I do better for tomorrow?
What can I do better for tomorrow? Who hasn't gone yet? Okay, Emily?
I got this from last night's class, but are you teaching or presenting?
Oh, are you teaching or presenting? Thank you. Brigitte?
Why does my role matter?
Why does my role matter? Thank you. Brandon?
What are you doing each day to get better?
Say that again.
What are you doing each day to get better?
What are you doing each day to get better?
Why history?
Why history? Did everybody go?
No. How do I persevere in a system that does not promote growth and learning?
How do I persevere in a system that does not promote growth and learning? Yeah, not every day, that's for sure. Thank you. So, call out into the void, my favorite thing I learned from Logan that she learned from me that I like to say back. Call out into the void now. A little bit of the so what. What's your so what for that? Why do this? Besides the strategies, besides everything that we're doing, the moving, the talking, what's your so what for these? Why? So what? So what these questions, so what your question, the answer, so what?
For the hard
Remind
days.
us it does matter.
For the hard days, to remind us it does matter. What else?
Reflection.
Reflection. Talk a little more about that.
My question literally is, what can I do to become a better teacher? And I don't really think about that every day. I just go through sometimes I'm going just through the motions to get through them. But what can I do differently?
Yeah, thank you.
Even if it's not working one day, I just kind of like still try to fix it.
It's
my fault.
It's really one of my favorite things about teaching, like there's tomorrow, we hope, there's tomorrow. So yeah, I appreciate that very much. There are other areas of my life I appreciate that in too, but I really appreciate that in teaching. What else? What's your so what?
Like purpose, your purpose every day.
Talk more.
Well, kind of what she said, but in life, we just go through the motions a lot, and we don't stop. Why am I doing this? Like really, and also on those bad days, like they said, just pausing and saying, why did I start in the first place? Why did I start this program? On those days where you're like, oh my God.
Why did I start this program? I'm talking to a lot of prospective MATs right now. And it is interesting because I'm talking to these strangers, and trying to, and like seeing you as I'm talking about the program to strangers that this is my thing I talk about all the time. It's going to happen in a month or 2 months or whatever it is. Why? Because part of me wants to like start grilling them. Like, no, do you really mean it? Because this is too hard to not to be like halfway. It's too hard, when people are like, not sure, maybe teaching, I'm like, get out of the room, because it is too hard to be like, it's my fallback. So yeah, I want you to just have a good time. That was Logan's subtle exit. Sorry, Logan, I moved her. She wanted to be by the door. So yeah, it's interesting talking to these people right now. Because they're like, well, what's it like? And I'm like, 2 weeks ago I would not have let them near you, But then now I think I would. Yeah. What else? Why? What was this making you think about? What's your...
A lot of times, day to day, I struggle to balance each of these things. So taking a moment to reassess, like, these are all the things I need to be doing. And, like, so, like, for example, what does it feel like to be taught by you? Sometimes when you're trying to think about the way you want to teach, you forget how it feels. So kind of thinking as you go through lesson planning to bring all these questions into balance.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, what about these questions? Go ahead, Tyler.
I would say also to, it's like putting words to what we're thinking right now, because a lot of us are trying to figure out what our next step is. Like, yes, we're probably going to teach, but what are we going to teach? What do we want out of that school?
Yeah.
And a lot of these things are helping us to already put that in our mind of what we've been thinking about.
Thank you. What else? What else?
These are like interview questions maybe
Oh.
that a principal would ask.
I hadn't thought about that, but they
you
absolutely
prep it as
could be.
mock interviews.
Yeah, without knowing it, because I don't know anything about, formalized teacher training. And so, yeah, it absolutely. I do think those would be interesting questions. I wonder, that makes me think, Emily, you know how at the end when they say, well, what questions do you have for us? Or what did we not ask? Lots of interview questions say, like, what did we not ask? I think it would be really interesting to say, well, in one of my graduate classes, comment on the fact that you are a graduate student. One of the graduate classes in my MAT program at USCW, I totally mean it. And so, yeah, they're going to be like, such a braggart. They will not be. But I wonder, it would be an interesting thing, like I think a lot about what it would feel like to be taught by me. Like that is interesting. I wonder what a principal would think about that. Yeah. What else? Anything else you want to share from these? What else? Yes, ma'am.
The partnership will end and we will have our own classrooms.
There is an end point, and there are days when that's hard, and days when you're like, ugh, I cannot wait, and then days when you're like, oh, I remember when I used to have some help, and so, yeah, those are always, this will end, like we're going to talk about goodbyes next week, because this really will end, and you'll be saying goodbye to your teacher. So sometimes that'll be a happy goodbye. This might be a nice transition. It's not related, but it's sort of related. Kimberly, will you share the gift of goodbye quickly?
Oh, the gift of goodbye. The gift of goodbye it's a gift, and that sometimes you just have to tell people goodbye, and it's like handing them a present kind of. And then there's also situations where if it's a toxic situation, it really needs to be the gift of goodbye. But you can say goodbye to people even in formal situations, whether, not with your internship teacher, or even if it is, even whatever horrible situation, that sometimes you just have to separate yourself from people for whatever reason, either good, bad, or indifferent, and that it's the gift of goodbye. That sometimes, and even though, if it's somebody that we've learned a lot from and we don't really want to say goodbye, everybody, we got to say goodbye sooner or later, sometimes in life. The gift of goodbye. And I wish I had known about the gift of goodbye about 25 years ago. It would have saved me a whole lot.
Yeah. I thought it too. Kimberly mentioned it in her journal, and I was like, I wrote it down, and then I had to text her. And I was like, the gift of goodbye. Like that really, I learned so much from your journals. And that was one where I'm like, oh, why didn't I learn that forever ago? But I think also in these formal situations, it is a gift.
Yeah.
To have a chance to also move on. So, because you'll all see each other perhaps in 5 years, or you won't, or you'll still be connecting on Facebook. It is interesting how we start to have these kind of, teaching has a beautiful sort of, you get to say goodbye over and over and over again. Many teachers get very good at it. So, yeah, and it's hard. Did you have a thought, or are you stretching?
Both.
Okay.
So we started talking about it today. My teacher asked me today, she said, we have to start scaling back, because I hit my 30 days last week, because I started teaching full-time a couple weeks before everyone else. It's like, you've hit your 30 days, when do you want to start cutting back? I'm like,
Ignore what you said about the 30 days. Let all that go.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, that was your response?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. And then I started thinking, well, we have a test next week, so probably next week, because the week after that's spring break, and then that's it.
What typically happens for lots of you is you start scaling back after spring break. And then you're gone. So it really is something to start thinking of. You're not dead, but then you're gone.
My teacher started talking about it last week. She was like, which one are you going to give up? Like out of nowhere. I was like, what?
Yeah, and every internship is different. Some teachers don't let you give anything up. Some teachers make you teach to the bitter end. And then some teachers let you scale back one. So the way the program was designed If you are taking ESL right now, which is not a couple of you, but if you are taking ESL right now, you are allowed to scale back one class at spring break. I sort of try to let everybody say that, like, you remember how we're supposed to scale back one class to work on, to work on finishing up. And it gets your teacher ready to start teaching again. Some of you have had like coffee break teachers. And so your teacher has to learn the kids' names. Like teacher will say, I don't even know their names. Like teachers don't, they let you be the teacher. And so that's one great example of when teachers like, I got to start learning their names. It's good prep for your teacher. So your teacher started last week and your teacher started today.
Well, saying something about
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Do we
It's
need
time.
to have a conversation with our teachers?
So generally, you can bring it up, or your supervisor can bring it up, or I can do the beautiful Cindy Wiseman email. This is sort of how it happens. Or even Jana can send one, because they don't know Jana yet, so they might be like, oh, maybe she's important, and I need to listen to her.
Yeah, do that.
So do that one to let them. So some teachers will be like, I know they say to scale back, but we're not. Like some of you will have that teacher that says, that's nice and all. Some teachers will be having babies.
Yeah.
And there'll be no
Mine
scaling
asked
back.
her, you're ready to take the third class.
I know. So that's what I need to tell you about. In some classrooms, teacher will ask you to take the third for a week. It is an option.
Screw that option. Am I right?
It is an option. I swear to God, it's an option. And I will go to whatever the proverbial mat is for you over that it's an option.
I'm teaching in the middle school.
Dennis doesn't think
The
it's an
other
option.
classes,
Yeah.
Dennis does not think it's
No, Dennis doesn't think it's an option. Dennis and I like fight about it. Yeah. So, we fight about it. So before we take a break, I want to do a quick transition. So thank you for that. I want to do a quick transition to inquiry project. So great question. Before we transition, Emily Ann asked a great question. Do you have to scale back? No. No. One thing that you do have to do, you are supposed to stop teaching on the Wednesday and leave on the Friday.
The 18th.
So you're, what, I don't know the number.
It is the 18th.
You're supposed to stop teaching on the Wednesday because MATs, ne'er-do-well MATs before you left their mentor teachers with grading. And so, like, left their teachers with just messes. No grades done, papers, yeah, nothing graded. Learn their names now. Yeah, so absolutely. Caleb has a question also before you.
So if I have all my grading done, am I just out Wednesday?
No.
Sorry, Dr. O.
You stay in the building.
I just heard the reasoning.
So sometimes there's a little celebration for you on that Friday, sometimes not. So, yeah. Sometimes you can ask your teacher if you could ask the kids for some feedback. Sometimes your teacher will set up the kids to give you feedback before you leave. If your teacher's not touchy-feely or that kind of person, a nice thing to ask for is, could I ask the kids for some feedback as I'm leaving? And you could ask a couple questions, and they could give you that kind of feedback. Some of them will do it automatically. Yeah, so that's important. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I know you said we we're gonna do this next week, but I think I'm gonna have the hardest time with the gift of goodbye with my kids.
You are.
And I don't know, so I'm glad we're gonna talk about that because, yeah, I'm all about the gift of goodbye in the right situations, but with the kids, I'm not even talking about it, I'm getting a little teared up. And I'll move on so I won't tear up. If anybody did not get Bradley's on the Facebook, okay, the Facebook, it's like the Google, but it's the Facebook.
I didn't even notice it.
Okay. Dr. Smith is doing his WHQR radio show tomorrow, and he was so cute about it. When he told me about it, you guys, he's just so excited. So if that's your planning period, and you can listen to it, it's from 12 to 1, and you can call in and ask him questions.
It's Coastline.
Oh.
It's live, it's Coastline.
Yeah.
And they'll have it, whatever the word is, like, so you can listen to it again and again, whatever, I don't know what that word is. They, yeah, is there a fancy word for that?
Archive?
Archive. Thank you, fancy teacher.
I'm out.
Yay, Mary, you got it funny. Like, that was good.
Very good.
So,
When I try.
Yeah, so, but Kimberly brings up a good point, like, I don't even want to think about saying goodbye to your kids. Oh, yes, you do. And oh, yes, we will be. Because you will be saying goodbye to them because they need a chance to have some closure. And for you who are thinking like, they don't care, they don't like change. So even if they don't like you, they don't like change. So keeping that in mind is powerful. Yes, sir?
I gave my students something to look forward to. I told them on the 19th, they could each ask me 3 questions.
Oh, that's
Oh, God.
That you would answer.
That I will answer.
They
Answer
love,
honestly.
I know, we gotta do this, but they love asking me to do 2 truths and a lie. On the board, over and over, like, do it again. I did it the first time, one of my truths was I've never watched Netflix, because I really haven't, and they were like, what? No, I know.
haven't
You only way I see it. But after that one time, they were like, they wanted to play with me every single day and see what other things I
What
don't.
new thing
Weird
you're going
quirks.
to do. Do you know why that would be hard for me?
Why?
Because you lie. I lie all the time. Like I would tell like, you lies, like you're very, you would lie.
3 lines, no number line.
I know, 2 lies. John here says, well, yeah, John.
Well, since everyone's getting all mopey and touchy-feely and stuff, I have very much become that.
Dad, I'll come give you a
Caleb, you may go now. That's what we have in class. Hey, and we're all thinking about goodbyes. Flip the script. Every goodbye is followed by hello. So,
Look at that awesome
50 more.
reframe. Who's reframing in here? Yep, awesome. They are, because you get to have another hello. It really,
50 more hellos, 75 hellos next year.
it really.
Maybe Alexander doesn't like that one.
Every goodbye is help. And you can say that to your kids. Because some of your kids are going to struggle. And some of your kids are going to make your teachers feel horrible. And you need to work on not letting that happen. Because part of you wants to like love that. Like it's going to make, you're going to feel like so good. And they're like, we don't want our teacher. They don't really mean it. And so they might, but they really don't. What they hate is change. And so just be mindful of that your teacher is about to take back over kids. It's the next, you start to realize that your teacher gave you his or her kids. They became yours. Like they gave your kids. They gave you their kids. I'm not saying that well, but I think you get what I get. Like they took the risk. They didn't know you from anybody, and they trusted you with their jobs. And so that is powerful, even when you're frustrated. Before we break, thank you for this transition. You know that Friday-ish, it's time to share the research that you found on your inquiry project. So if you don't, Logan and I had a long talk about this. If you don't have a deadline, you don't do it. And so without the deadline, you don't do it. And so I think you need to give yourself the deadline. But what I want to share with you is what's something that makes it a little easier. I mentioned the annotated bibliography passage last week or 2 weeks ago, and a couple of you were like, I have no idea what you're talking about. You were like, I don't even know what that is. And so I want to share with you what an annotated bibliography page would look like. So I'm going to assume you have found your 5 articles. So let's start there, and let's just, I'll just look at the ceiling. You have found your 5 articles. In my rich fantasy life, you have read them. And so that's spectacular. So there's, even that is a win. So you read, and I'll say this out loud, Brittany and Bethany, I'll say this out loud as well. I would be writing this down. I would draw this picture. So I would draw this so that you're not bothering me in 3 days you haven't done anything, or 20 minutes, right? So what this would look like, so for each article, you put the first section 1, the bibliographic info, and write it the fancy hard way. So write it the way that it's going to go in your paper. Don't use the website that does it automatically. Type it out.
Is APA?
APA, yes. So this is a thing. This has to be an APA. All my English teachers just get over it. So it's APA.
I know, like, social studies,
Not Chicago, not
History.
APA. Yay.
It's the history majors. Yeah, not the Congress, MLA.
Yeah, guess what? We can make the easiest version of it ever. Bless you. So bibliographic info. So I recommend after the, oh, I forgot. I left something important out. Right here. Oh, so, what did I did not say shut up. In my growing up, shut up got you hit with the house shoe.
Yep.
Like, so that was, you were not allowed to say shut up. So, yeah. My earliest memory of my mother's being hit on the face with a house shoe. She hated that story. Like, do you remember Mommy flimsy house shoes? Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, wham. I stuck my tongue out at her. I didn't know what reflection was. So I stuck my tongue out at her in her vanity mirror, and she whipped that shoe around and came across it. I did not do that again. So, after the bibliographic information, this is your paragraph in your own words. This is your own version of the abstract, Amanda Sharp. So, this is where you say what it's about. You put into your own words what it's about, but only let you do like 3 sentences. Like, what is this one about? Okay, what is this article about? This one is about blah, 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 okay?
Paragraph or 3 sentences? 3 sentences.
I think you try to make it short because it'll be longer later.
Definition, that is a paragraph.
No, it's not.
I'm not touching your definition. Like fire.
No, this is for you.
You're like teaching us to do, how to do research.
I'm teaching you how to do an annotated bibliography. So, then I recommend you actually type out the most important 3 to 5 passages from the article. 3 to 5.
So like,
Yes. So Devin just said, can I cut and paste them if it's that kind of article? Sure. Sometimes I think it helps to actually type it though. So it just depends. Okay, it just depends. 3 to 5, not 35, most important passages from the article. 3 to 5 most important passages from the article for your study. Logan said, one of my articles sort of goes against everything I'm like doing. It talks about like why I'm doing is not like useful. And I said, I think that's a great article because you can talk about the other side. So that's important as well. So 3 to 5 passages and directly quote the passage. Directly quote the passage. And that means put your page number there so that you can find it again. Don't forget your page numbers. After your direct quote, put like 2 sentences about how that passage connects to your study. This is quick, like 2 sentences about why, like why'd you pick that one? Practically a text response. Why'd you pick that passage? So 3 to 5 passages, and then just a quick so what? What did this article have to do with your study? How did it help you move forward? What did this article help you do with your thinking? What did it clarify? What's your so what? And I recommend you do this for all 5 articles. I strongly recommend that you write this bibliographic entry for all 5 articles. Now, this is what you could turn into me. Because this becomes your lit review. Your lit review is all of this information with transitions.
Can you give us a format for that?
I really don't. It looks like the lit reviews from your articles. You can talk about I recommend doing it article by article. Some people like to mix them all together, like mix all 5 articles together sort of by theme of what you learned from those articles. You're welcome to do that. There is a streamlined way to do it, which is article by article. So you may not use all 5 articles in your actual lit review section. But the lit review is the meatiest part of your paper. And so I like that you're getting it written. So ideally, you have found your 5 articles. If not, that's the thing you're going to work on in the next 3 days. So that's awesome. So you found your 5 articles. You started reading your 5 articles beyond the abstract. Okay? And then I think I would do this as I was reading if I haven't read yet. I would open, like if you're doing this on your screen, I like to print and read, but if you're doing this on your screen, open that empty Word document and start putting this in it for each passage. Quote your passages. So even now, when I write my journal articles or academic essays, I build them around my passages. So you can build your lit review around your passages. So on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever your ish is, because this deadline is not for me. I already graduated. So this deadline is for you. So the deadline is for you, because it just doesn't happen without the deadline. So what are your questions about that before we take a little break?
review will be due after.
What are your questions about that? Yes, ma'am.
Is this the recommended or mandatory format?
Recommended,
Okay.
not mandatory. Great question. For me, this is helpful, but if it is not helpful for you, just write your lit review. That's fine. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I got a little confused there with the lit review. You're saying that for the lit review, that once we have these 5 bibliographic.
Annotated bibliography pages, yeah.
Right, that it's easier to do lit review for each one or
For
mix them
me.
all up? For you to do a
For
lit
me,
review
it is
for each
easier
one?
to turn annotated bibliography pages into a lit review.
For each article?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and then you can decide if you want to mix up your lit review by theme, because you'll notice in all these articles that you read, people do their lit reviews differently. And so it's the second section of a scientific article. And so all your journal articles will have their lit review generally second. And so it's what does the literature say about this topic? Like Tyler nodded his head when he said he likes to do it by theme. Like he likes to say, well, this is one reason I'm doing this or want to explore this, and here's 3 things I found from my different articles. You know, Good Lad said this, and then whoever said this, and then, so you can mix it up like that, or you can go article by article. These are not beautiful. They do not have to be beautiful. Caroline, what's your question?
So you're not telling us to pull like whole chunks of passages, like I'm not pulling the entire discussion out of the paper and saying, here, I'm gonna quote something in here. We're just pulling out the snippets we're actually quoting.
I would say, for me, a passage is about 3 to 4 sentences. For me, when I say find your, 5 most powerful passages, it would be like 5 sentences from the article.
So in a lit review, will we literally have to put like 15 sentences from
Not
every
in the
single
act,
paper?
no, that's why annotated bibliography is different from a lit review.
And we have to turn in both.
No.
Wait.
This is just a setup, this is a skeletal version of what you're gonna put in the lit review.
This is scaffolding for your lit review. Yep, this is scaffolding for your lit review. If you can read your 5 articles and write your lit review, you don't need this step.
Okay, so this we don't turn in Monday.
This weekend.
Friday, you said
You have to turn something in
So it's like one or the other.
that shows that you have read and are writing about your article. So good question, Caroline. You do not have to do both of these.
Okay. So you just turn one and the other in Friday? Okay.
Like a draft of your.
You can turn in a draft lit review, but what happens sometimes in the draft lit reviews, quotes go here, which sort of tells me you haven't read the article yet. Like for me, this is helpful, but you don't have to do it. Great question. There were other hands going up before we break. What other questions do you have? I thought there were.
It was answered.
Did I not? Oh,
Like, can we go ahead and turn the lit review and approximately how long is it?
gosh, they're all different. It depends on how many passages you use. It really depends on how much of the article you use. They vary so much.
And I guess it because we've done this for Dr. Smith, it's,
I didn't know that. I'm happy to hear that.
yeah, we did it for our SIP project.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, we've already done this, don't freak out.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. So it's, you said quote them, we could also paraphrase and summarize things.
Oh, yes, great question from Stephen. Do I have to directly quote my lit review? Can I paraphrase and summarize? Yes. You do not have to directly quote your lit review, though some, just knowing stylistically, after you read all of these lit reviews for your articles, some direct quotes add credence to your essay, and then some paraphrasing also does that. We're also going to talk next week about the little PowerPoint slides you make. But I want, once this lit review hurdle is over, you feel better. It's a hurdle to be overcome, and then you feel better. I promise. Other questions before your break? All right, let's take a break. 10 minutes. Somebody set a timer.
Can we return back
Where we
to
want
our
to go?
seat?
Yeah, where we want to go.
So should we be like doing
This big chunk of time, this big chunk.
Can we just shut down? You already have
Have me look at it. Devin, have you done it like in your class, Saturday or something? Like any of your,
So there no.
for your project stuff?
I've been trying some of this stuff, but I'm just gonna get into a survey and I'm I'm waiting.
I've heard you're teaching Brandon's cousin.
Yes. Yes, Lauren, I can't get her to
Not right now.
Yeah, oh my God. So I was like, quick call.
Imagine us all eating together.
Okay. Gotcha. I love music.
Brandon's mom and Lauren's mom are
Yeah,
and then they're the exact same age as their mother.
I actually have a
So imagine when we're all first meet together, and I'm just like, like trying to say your last name. It's so sweet. Like,
I'm doing a
oh crap, what have they done? Like, nice things.
Yeah, we tried to hear. Oh, my teacher and I trying to work up
I had to do, turn in the first grade topic.
I had to write
Translator
some
for grade
today, so,
thesis.
oh, 3, right there.
Try for grade outline. And draft materials.
Oh, I have a kid who they gave us
I told them from land bridge to reconstruction. So anything that we cover during our class, not after. I also told them for the.
I have one kid who cuts daily.
Take something early.
Like
Because we'll talk about it.
he's
He's
probably come
oh, I'm gonna do it.
twice in the last 3 weeks.
Like it's time I introduced it to him. You've got all these, you can't use my PowerPoints as sources, you cannot. But they will help, right.
They're like normal in the front, and then they're all
online resources that support an idea from the class.
Yeah, you just have to talk about it.
It's really just to
And I think the time to talk about it is
teach
important,
them how to
because what are
do
you
a
finding, what have you done?
That's what I always
And
do.
Brad, my husband,
I haven't, well, actually, I haven't been working and I have not done
you talk
training.
to a person, they love it.
They're already trying out our project.
So some people have started, some people
different
started
review
talking
topics or different review strategies. You're like,
Well,
Well, I did do it in my honors class.
I've done like 2 different ones.
And for that very reason.
what I would like to do. I love, since I'm very high achievers from village, and so I started by doing this online, so they go home, there's a lesson online they learn, and they come in on Fridays, and then we do some beginning classes. My middle kid. And, but the way I wanted to do it different ways.
Turned out to beat me.
Where they were doing, laptops in the classroom.
I'm surprised.
I wanted to do it where they were doing something at home and then would come in and have it prepared, ready to go. That's not wrong at all. Or you could say, I'm trying this thing.
Maybe that's still on the project. Why did I get a call from my friend?
And he went from like, oh my
I'm
God.
doing 3 different things. We're gonna try something, we're gonna try
Hey, my paper is
Friday.
about, here's my thesis. Here's support, here's support, here's support. Hey, my paper was about, and then you can see from this stuff that I wrote, there it is. So before you know it, you'll have to be cutting stuff.
Because you'll also be doing surveys and then where you ask them questions.
Is that what you're? You'll be fine. That's really all I'm trying to do is.
Please tell me somebody set a timer.
Sure. And of course, I think I already went down.
Let's say that was 2 minutes.
Actually, I didn't grade that topic. That was a free read.
That was
Oh, yeah, and we can talk about that. That's fine. Typographic ordinance.
I might overdue
It might not be
this.
good.
It's gonna be a 40.
Well, some said like, so I'm not.
Problem-based learning is instruction that students learn through.
All
Yes,
okay,
I'll give you.
Yep, that is all okay.
Logic and research and theory suggests.
Yeah. Like that would be
And you can see that they're doing provides, that is not, oh, yeah, I do that. But I'm starting a new, but I
Make you do it.
yeah, I was.
Yeah.
And I'll mention those, yeah. Because some, okay.
I felt bad for the semester about stuff like that. Not for that.
Yeah. Yes, what did you teach?
Yeah, thanks.
Write it on the PowerPoint.
Oh, that's okay.
Weekly calendar.
I know.
I felt like it gave it more power personally.
Spending his spots out by his scared. He's doing that.
Can you name everybody? I need to go to I need to ask what.
Okay, so.
Evan.
Oh my God! Do you ever know each other that long? I went to this girl.
I sure miss kids. You're my new kid.
I'm childhood.
The principal at mine.
You don't want to come and vote? Wait, what?
And that's what tonight was for, was like, get on. You know, I also work with it, and I know no one ever everybody wants to be up, everybody. And then you just like,
Yeah, friends over there.
yeah, present. Do you remember you? Only 5 people.
Yeah, I remember getting into arguments with you.
It's on the thing.
You take out the white
I remember doing the rest of the week PowerPoint or did we make all another way? Start thinking now about so nope, so we think
He was like,
Okay,
he was good at lecturing.
so a couple of things to have you thinking about. This is just for thinking. A couple of things to have you thinking about as you're, now that you're thinking about your inquiry project, so hooray, you're thinking about your inquiry project. So this came up with a couple of our chitty chats as people were coming up to the front. The big question to keep reminding yourself, describe, that word just sounded weird, describe your instructional change. What am I doing to change my instruction? Because when you start to freak yourself out, all the project is trying something new in your teaching and talking about how it works. What did I try? How did it go? Okay, what did I try? How did it go? Emily Warren, are you hearing me? What did I try? How did it go? Okay? So when you get stuck in thinking about how you're writing about it, think about what are you doing? What are they doing? So when you're like, what am I talking about? What are you doing differently? How are they responding? Yes, ma'am.
And the change, I forget, is it 10 instructional days? Like you do it over 10
You're
days?
shooting for about 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
You're shooting for about 3 weeks of data.
Shoot. So we should be starting this like next week. Should be
So
done.
if you think about the grand plan, when is your lit review due?
Friday. Just in time to start on Monday.
Yes, ma'am. This is not by accident. So I promise. You are not. Because we what used to happen is people would start right away and they'd like read nothing, but not even thought about it, and then they would do their lit review last. And they'd be like, oh, like I would have done so many different things, or gosh, I really screwed that up, or it showed, like when they talked about their work. Like it was just, this is the order that is often most helpful. Do people do it differently? Have some people already started even though their lit reviews are finished? Yes. It happens. In the end, nobody knows. And like Emily Warren just said, I'm feeling some anxiety. And I said, you are not alone. And this is just how it goes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have to say something. If what I'm doing, I'm taking away something that I'm doing. So like we have been doing interactive notebooks. We implemented them. That's my partner teacher now for her first time. I am taking them away for
the whole 3 weeks or just for a week?
I don't know yet, but it's the removal of that and then so I already have like data for how they're doing with them. Then they get like surveys of students, like when I remove them, then I do like feedback from them.
And what are you replacing the removal with? Because taking something away is harder to prove a negative.
Right.
So what are you replacing the interactive notebooks with? That's your instructional change.
So, well, it was more so, okay, it's to show, because we're doing them for the first time. My interactive notebook is the project, like to see if they really help students learn the content. So when I take them away, then I'm looking at their grade change and then.
I think we have to rethink that. I think removing something is not showing that it, like you're trying to prove something you think you already know.
No, I don't know.
And the point is just, I think you tinker with how you do instructional interactive notebook. I think you keep, if you can get your teacher back on board, I think you look at multiple ways to do interactive notebooks. Or you pick one feature of the interactive notebook.
Okay.
Now that's interesting. What if you removed a feature of the interactive notebook and replaced it with something else to see what did they think, how did they do, and then I don't know that I would take the whole interactive notebook away because you know it works.
Yeah. So many of them want me to. They hate it. And so many of the rest of the class love it. So it's just, it'd be interesting to see like how they would do if we removed it. But I understand.
But this is about your practice. So that's what you have to keep going back to.
We'll have to talk.
What am I learning? Yeah, and just keep talking to her. Say, I'm still refining. You're just refining.
Yeah.
My project is interactive notebooks. My research is on that. My everything is on that. I'm going to have to tinker with, let's say we pick 3 weeks. Do something different with it for 3 weeks. Maybe one of the weeks is we didn't use it at all.
Yeah. Okay.
That's one. And then now you've got 2 more ways to tinker with it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like your face even looks like that makes sense. Like that makes sense. Yeah. What else are you thinking about?
I wasn't thrown off of the project. I don't know how interactive notebooks work, but you might also consider doing a choice, like having 2 types of notes and students get to pick
One
what
choice. Now you'll make
Kids at 8.
Yeah,
I like that.
And how interesting, Emily, to think about how they did when they got to choose. Like how did they do in the week that they chose? And what do they think about that? There's even some metacognition where you're asking them to think about their own thinking and their own learning. That's pretty powerful. Yeah. So you're getting into the research. What have you discovered? And then in a nutshell, what are you thinking? What does the research say about your topic? Okay. What is your data collection revealing? Because you're going to start collecting data if you haven't already. You're going to start collecting data. You're going to have much more data than you actually talk about. But anything related to your inquiry project, you photocopy, scan, or take a picture of. So that's the hard thing to start remembering. Anything related to your inquiry project, you photocopy, scan, or take a picture of. So, because you will accidentally give them back the quizzes that you needed for your inquiry project. Yes.
Okay, or I cannot do that at all because I haven't done any either. And you didn't hear it, but it's okay. But I did research to implement something though. There's a parking lot in the classroom for student needs.
So let's talk in a minute.
Okay.
As you're thinking through things.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that is perfectly
Sorry.
appropriate. No, it's totally fine. You are not alone in this current condition you are in.
Yeah.
No, you're not. You are not alone.
I know, but it's research.
You're not alone in that condition. So what is your data collection revealing? So in qualitative research, this is when you start like coding. They call it coding. When you start to find your themes. What themes are emerging in your research? Sometimes they start like in the first week. What are you noticing? What are you noticing? And then finally, what new questions is your project forming for you? That's your conclusion. So where are you going next? What new questions is this, what new questions is your project forming for you? What questions are, nope, what new questions is the project forming? Questions are forming, but the project, what project? I'm gonna write it down, because I think I'm right, so I have to write that down. I'm gonna write that down. Okay, I'm tinkering with that, because I think I'm right.
Say the whole thing.
It's not important. I don't need it.
Say the whole thing both ways.
I'm gonna sit with that for a minute. Because that's what's so awesome about language.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think I'm gonna write the sentence down and find the questions. Okay. And work on my subject.
What new project?
Yeah, they're not really good.
What new questions in your project, or what new questions are your project?
Weren't you an English teacher?
I was. I know what
I took English people.
Yeah.
I need to tell the question project is. I gotta talk about whole thing. Okay. So, what's next? Okay, what's next?
Early dismissal? Like, when it's back?
No crying, you don't need to cry. We're from our class. Okay, no crying. Here's something else we need to talk about.
Thank you.
Not unrelated to your inquiry project are your peer observations.
Oh, yeah.
Unrelated to your... Okay, so let me start to say some things, and then we'll see if the questions are answered. So, peer observations. How many do you do?
Dose. Well,
Here.
For SEC 521, how many do you do? Two. Where is one of them?
At your school.
In what subject?
Yours.
different one.
Okay, any subject, ideally a different one. If there are no other interns at your school, whom do you pick?
The newest
Your
teacher.
payroll.
The babyest teacher. Yep, newest teacher. So your newest newbie. Now, where's your second observation?
Another
In what content area?
Yours.
So, or as closely related. So, but I know Vivian and Nellie can mind math teachers at other schools. So, but are you both at different schools? Are you already finished? Oh, okay. Okay.
Like, stop assuming.
Huh?
I asked Molly.
You can observe each other at your schools. That's your peer. And then you can observe any intern at your school in any subject.
I'll see you later this semester, Noah.
So, yeah.
Like, hi.
Now, where are the forms? What can you write this up on? Anything. Yep, you can write it up on anything. All of the forms are on the professional experience website. So I script. So in the past, people have even scanned their script and turned in their script. But it's nice to put it on a form because that makes it sort of manageable. All of those forms are on Cindy Wiseman's professional experience page. There's like 8 you could choose from. Yes, ma'am.
Is that different than the teacher intern resource packet?
That's the so yes, that is different from the teacher intern resource packet.
Because I was looking in there and I couldn't
Oh, thank you for asking. Oh, I just.
Hey, Bree-Ray.
Into the meeting. Can you I can.
First period's project, the class I've been working with.
Show me how to make a new window.
Second period as well. Also the third.
Today I was not.
You guys are on my side. I'm gonna lean. Third is better before it's gone to.
Okay, everybody look up here for a second, even if you know it already. I'm on the Watson page. There it is. I'm on the Watson page, second column under academics, field experiences. Internships. 1 gazillion forms. Okay, there's all the forms. As a Word document that you can actually type on, or a PDF.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can I email you and have you send us the address?
Yeah, could you?
The link.
Yeah. Link for that address?
Oh, like copy that and send it in an email?
Yes.
So, Caleb's gonna send me an email. I'll forget. You're welcome. You could even script. What else would you use? Does your there might
Whole lot.
I hate all of them. So I script.
Mom, first period.
Get me back to my
I'm trying to do a history lab.
Let me know.
We're almost finished.
I'm free whenever, but just seeing somebody else's classroom other than my own.
That's cool.
Yeah, let me know.
We take number here?
910, yeah.
I'll send it to you.
389.
All right, here are 2 questions you're not going to answer, but 2 questions I need you to start thinking about for 2 weeks, or actually after spring break. But these are 2 questions I'd like you to have running through your everyday teaching. What are you learning about the everyday lives and struggles of the teens in your classes? What are you learning about the everyday lives and the struggles of the teens in your classes? And what have you learned about their lives that you did not know? So what are you learning about their lives? Some of it won't be a surprise to you because you were just them, or you have siblings who are in high school. What are you learning about them? And are you learning anything that you did not know about their lives? So you're not answering this tonight. These are 2 questions for you to start really thinking about. What am I learning about the everyday lives of the struggles of the teens in my classes? And what are you learning about their lives that you didn't know? What are some surprises? What are some things you're learning about them that you did not know? Right, and then I'm skipping one thing so we can be out of here by 7:15. Yeah. Should we stay long? Should we? No, sorry. No. We can go to the library.
We go to Denny's.
Denny's is open like all the time.
Denny's, that's funny. Hi.
I love it.
We need a new word on the board.
I don't know. Man, get that All-Star Special. Get the All-Star Slam. Whatever it's called. No, Waffle House All-Star Special.
That's it, yep, that's
Okay.
And the,
So, Read, Listen, View this week. Read, Listen, View this week is an article that's already up called Understanding Fit. And it's about your first job. So, Understanding Fit. And you'll be shocked. It has Jean Denny's handwriting on it because it's one of her favorite articles that she found. So she's not a mystery person. We had tried hard to have her come tonight, but it's snowing in Maine, shocking amounts, and she has no power. So I know, Mystery Jean. I know. Excuses, excuses. I know. She was like, well, I could FaceTime on my phone, but that would be all data because she doesn't have wireless. I'm like, no. So, well, it's hard because I talk about how much I love you. And she's like, I don't really like it at all. So, yeah. And then part of me is like, is it even going to work? Because you don't know her here in the end. But we'll see. Suffice it to say, she's changed my life, which has made your lives. So, yeah. You're sort of like her progeny. So, Read, Listen, View is Understanding Fit. It is already there. Do you have a question, Bethany? Were you raising your hand or just trying to throw the ball to the dog so that it will be doing? Okay. Just constantly throwing the ball so the dog will be rolling. what are your questions? Read, listen, view, understanding fit, it's just one article. I'm so miss Mr. Palmer. So I do, Emily Warren misses him, I miss him too, Kimberly misses him.
Brandon misses him.
Is that my phone?
It gives me a lot to talk about. I have a lot of things to say about it.
Yes, you do.
We are officially through with that.
We are, and though I would challenge you to finish the book, but,
I've heard it.
oh, you can turn it back. So, read, listen, just understand, to read your lit review, my only advice is to please do. So, just, Brad, underline and bold it. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a bad student, maybe I was listening, but where do we fill in our peer observations? Are they on?
I'll put a spot on Blackboard.
On Blackboard.
Most people scan them and upload them. Oh, no, they don't. Give me a second. I make it on the journal. It's on the journal. It's not on the discussion board. Peer observations are not public. Peer observations go in the journal spot.
Okay.
Because what if you were like, oh, it's like a train wreck and I don't want to really say what I thought, but I want to give this feedback. Because that's happened. Is that I really learned like this non-example thing. So you're turning in your you're scanning your observation, like proof that you actually did it, and then you're just giving me a little tiny paragraph, like here's my feedback. This is what it was like to go to another school. These are my takeaways. This is what I like to see my subject taught somewhere else. Yes, sir.
Are we supposed to do this during our planning period, or do we just take the day and do it?
So you don't take the day. Generally, you don't take the day. You take the length of one block. But it doesn't necessarily have to be during your planning period. That's nice. But that's why we sort of try to give you as much planning time as possible for this. If you have to leave for this, which your teachers know you do, you leave subplans.
Okay.
So you leave subplans.
Unless it's not during your
Right.
class.
Unless it's during, like, ideally, this is during your planning, one of your 2 planning blocks. But if you want to go, like, if you want to go far, I guess you wouldn't go to Dixon because it's social studies, but if you wanted to go far away to see English at another school, you would just arrange that with your teacher. This is an expectation of the program, to do one of your peer observations at another school. It's the thing I get the most shit about. Like, it'll get down to the wire and they'll be like, do I really have to go to another school? I will say yes. There are so many things that I don't hold a hard line on, and this is one of them. And so you do have to go to another school. Yes, sir.
My spring break is the 2nd of 6th through April, so if anybody's looking for some, I know it's different than
Nobody
everybody
wants to
else's.
Dixon.
So
So if anybody
Stevens.
wants to come up to Dixon and observe social studies, I'll be teaching when you're off. I'm coming to see Brad during my spring break, so.
And Stevens is also, he's already had his spring break, so if you want to come see English, that is also another.
When you teach John?
I teach 2nd and 3rd period, so 9, 15, and
When was
45.
Jason's? Did you already have your spring break at Idaho Fair?
We follow in Hanover County. We follow in Hanover County.
Oh my God. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a long time. I'm so sorry. I
No.
haven't got a break. I thought we like rolled up to school for a little, no break.
No.
Yeah, I'll tell you sort of a not funny story about what happened when I was a
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
So, what are your questions for the good of the group? What are your questions for the good of the group? What are you still thinking about? What's left out there that you haven't done yet? Yes, sir. No, thank you. Lit review is on the discussion board. So thank you. So the 2 things Caleb needs to remind me to do is to make the private space for the peer observations and the public
Caleb's not
space.
here.
Caleb's not here.
Caleb's not here to do something.
So the 2 things Caleb needs to remind me to do is make the public space for the lit reviews and the private space for the peer reviews. What else? Yes, ma'am.
It wasn't necessarily about inquiry class,
Okay.
but are we going to, in this class, at some point, talk about our evidences?
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, I absolutely can help with that. Yep, yep. Also, I absolutely will, yeah. Because everything goes, it all happens The other thing we do after inquiry project is I get you ready for your graduation presentation. I just don't do it right now, because you're like you all go boom, boom, boom. Yeah, yes ma'am.
Speaking of that week again, so we're done teaching on the 20th. Do we have class that Monday?
I don't know the numbers.
Okay, so last
Your
day-
teaching calendar has nothing to do with the UNCW.
Right, so we're done, but do
April
we
20th is a
come to
Friday.
class because we like have our presentations that week, like a Wednesday or Thursday or something. Do we have class that Tuesday with you?
When is the last day of classes?
You
We will not have class when we are no longer allowed.
Okay, so we will meet, my point is, we're gonna meet before we have to present.
We'll
like that
have
week.
class that 24th, which is a Tuesday.
And then we have our presentation.
Yeah, that's why I know, like, well, yeah, I was gonna request classes.
We never not.
Booze dummy classes go all the way up to May, right?
But I will say, John Harris, down at People Spring Break reminded me, you are not required to come to class during your spring break week. So Kimberly's laughing, duh. You are not required to come to class during your spring break. So like, it'll just be easy, like, I'll be here, but you don't have to, like, it was just us. It's like you, me, and John, like, we will either go somewhere and have a nice like dinner, or.
Margarita's on me.
Yes! I'll bring you some.
Emily Ann had a great question, hang on one more second. So, Emily Ann said, but will you be here? Yes, my job requires me to still be here. So, I'll be here, so if we wanna take that night where you're like, oh, are you gonna be here? Or we pick somewhere to like go, we can do that, or, yeah, so I'll be here. So if you wanna have questions, also remember, email, telephone, I use them both. So, if you want to think through some things or talk about things, it is always okay to do that. To text and say, can you talk for a second? I almost always be like, oh yeah, I can, I have a minute now. So yeah, we've even talked like conference periods, people have been like, oh, I have a second right now, can we talk for a minute? So yes. What else, other questions? Make sure you connect with somebody in here for your second peer observation in another school. That might be nice to do tonight. And are we leaving by oh my word, we're gonna leave by 7:15. So this is funny, I can't go home until Will's asleep. So I like go to my office and like try to be productive. Because if I come home before Will goes to sleep, we have a whole nother hour on our hands. So, yeah, because Steve gets into bed by it's just like the baby I was sure. So Steve gets into bed by like, he sleeps in our bed. So when I'm not home, Will gets to go to bed in my spot. And so he'll be like he'll try to like make sure he's asleep fast because he wants to fall asleep, and then we just move him after I come home and have dinner and all that. But if I get home like a second too early, Steve's like if the dog's like scratching hear me and it wakes Will up, I'm in so much trouble. So I can get some work done while we're here. Thank you, Brittany and Bethany, for sticking with us. That was awesome. Good night, Joe. Oh, I hope we turned the camera back on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good job. So you even told me that, I think. Okay, yeah, we're recording. Oh, you did. Like, get started, lady. This time. Yep. Joe, is Joe in? Yes.
I haven't seen John all night.
So, we're all done. Have a great night. Thank you. Have a great night.